All right, greetings everyone. Sean Ruggiero, Family First Life Advanced Market Sales. I'm here with Bridget Reimer. Thank you again. Last week, in a separate video, we covered using the financial inventory in the in-home to leverage the two questions. One, the question about long-term care. Do you have any, yes or no? And then do you have anything that acts like insurance, the golden question. We use that to pivot and discover and sell an annuity. We can also use it to sell an IUL. And maybe not in the traditional sense, Bridget. I know Kim does a great job with this. And traditionally, we have taught about using IULs to sell for accumulation. Younger clients putting money in, taking tax-free money for retirement. But the real opportunity out there that I think we're missing, and there's great commissions and a great need for it, is the IUL for death benefit and long-term care. So that's what we're going to cover today. And we'll re-step through this. Some of the things we will fast forward a little bit, not to bore you. But in this scenario, if you recall last week, Bridget was 64, single, had $300,000 in a 401k, getting ready to retire at age 67. This week, she is still 64, but we have an imaginary husband, Peter. He's very quiet. Yeah, she's married. And she is not as healthy as Peter's, you'll see, and they don't have a 401k.
I'm healthy, he's not.
That's right.
It's important.
She's healthy, he's not healthy. But let's go ahead and begin, and thank you for correcting that.
Yes.
Oftentimes I don't hear myself, and then everybody's confused, right? Okay, so now we're sitting here, mortgage protection request, I'm sitting down. I've gone through my paces, I'm now sitting down with the financial inventory. So I'll just start from the top here. I grab the client's email, client's name. So Peter, your name is Peter, last name is Reimer. Peter, you are 67 years old? No, 68. 68, yep. Thank you. The wife tends to always know. And then Bridget?
64.
You're 64 years old. Great. And I have the address here as 1234 First Street.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And we're in Everett, Washington, 99213. Do you all have any children?
Oh, yeah, we have some children.
Okay.
Yeah, 3. Yep.
3 kids. What are their ages?
Let's see. Gosh, now they're 40, 36, and 34.
Okay, great. Now, monthly income sources, as I understand, you all are heading into retirement. Peter, you planned on working for how much longer?
About 3 years.
3 years? Okay. Yeah. And are you currently working?
I am not. Yeah, I stayed home and raised the kids, and I get to help with the grandkids. And
yeah, well, that's a lot of work in itself.
Yes,
trust me, I know
you.
that firsthand. So as far as monthly income goes, you said you did work previously because I saw some of the pictures. You used to work. So you have some Social Security check saved up.
Yeah.
What is your Social Security per month?
Last time it was tracking to be about $1,000 a month.
$1,000 a month.
Yep.
Okay. And Peter, your Social Security is?
2,800, yeah.
2,800, all right.
It on it should be about that.
Okay, and he's going to be retiring at age 70, so he'll get a nice cost of living adjustment every year. And then, Peter, do you have a pension? I know the company you work for often offers pensions. Does he have a pension?
Yes, pension, $2,000 a month is what it will pay out.
Okay, great. So, not bad. Combine all of that, we've got some good retirement income. Now, let's start with you, Bridget. Are you a smoker?
I am not.
Okay, and how about Peter?
No, he's not either.
Medical conditions?
Nothing for me, yeah.
Okay.
Good, healthy.
And so no medications?
Nope. Not
okay,
for
how
me.
about for Peter?
He has just a couple to control blood pressure and high cholesterol. So.
Okay, high cholesterol medication, high blood pressure medication. All right, any history of, I know on the phone you said that he did have what seems like a mild stroke a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you look good, Peter. I'm glad you're recovering. All right, great. And whatever the medication may be, it might be blood thinners, might be high cholesterol. We'll run into that a lot. And this scenario isn't too much different. What we're trying to portray is slightly older male than female. Females live longer. Generational thing oftentimes where the female does not work as much, does not have as much Social Security. And oftentimes when they claim the pension, which I'm going to ask about, you'll see that they don't claim with a very high survivorship.
Yep.
So, okay, great. Now, on that pension, the $2,000 a month, how much of that goes to Bridget when Peter dies?
50% is 50%. What we signed up for.
Okay, great. So it'll be a $1,000 reduction. Okay. And then do either of you have any long-term care coverage in place?
No.
Okay, you don't.
Nope.
Now, I will intentionally act a little bit concerned. Okay, so no long-term care coverage for either of you.
No,
Okay,
not right
okay,
now.
all right, okay, that's why I'd like to know. All right, now I have the mortgage, $180,000, and I would go through all these questions we did in the other one, the payment, the term, the value, but I'm gonna ask the golden question next, okay? And this is gonna be key for how we're gonna plan this together and what we're going to do when we ask a specialist. So Bridget, do you all have anything that acts like insurance, such as a 401k, a 403b, an annuity, something that if you were to pass, it's going to go probate free over to Peter or vice versa?
No, because of the pension, we didn't do 401ks or anything like that.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
so
all right.
Nothing.
All right, okay, that makes sense. All right, and then I can go ahead and ask about Medicare Sup, Med Advantage. These are great things to sell more products and help people out. But what we're going to do now is we're going to segue and talk about the income gap and the lack of long-term care coverage. All right, so I would go ahead and proceed with the mortgage protection, sell the policy. Let's say it's an HMS, whatever it might be. I'm going to conclude my business that I'm there to conclude first. Then I'm going to transition. Now, we used this segue last time of, do you have anything that acts like insurance? Thank you. Thank you. Do you have anything that acts like insurance? Or, I'm sorry, we used the segue last time of how much can you afford to lose,
Yep.
right? So we were talking with someone who had, when they asked the golden question, they answered with, yes, I have a 401k. And how much of that do you want to lose? Well, I really would like to not lose any of it. And that's where we gave the understanding, guaranteeing growth and income for retirement. But this one's a little different. There is no 401k, there is no IRA, yet we have some deficiencies. There's two major deficiencies that we're looking at here. The income gap and the discrepancy of how long you'll probably live, and the fact that they have nothing to protect against long-term care. So if Peter's already had a stroke, if he's taking blood thinners, high cholesterol medication, again, maybe it's not major issues, but if we combine the longevity factors of Bridget versus Peter, and the fact that that income will be reduced by about $2,000 a month, now let's call it $25,000 a year, that is a concern, and this is an opportunity for us to help out. So, getting back into this, great, thank you. We'll submit this off to the home underwriter to see if they accept our request for application, our request for approval. Now, real quick before I go, just to reiterate, you all don't currently have any sort of 401k, annuity, or IRA.
No.
And you have the pension, I understand that.
Yeah,
and that's great
Yep.
as long as Peter's alive.
Correct.
You also don't have any long-term care coverage. Now, my job as an agent is really to protect people in two ways, okay? That's to protect them with their human capital, right? And that's what life insurance is all about, but also their financial capital. And your financial capital, when Peter dies, is going to take a significant hit. Okay, now I know you all know this, and Peter, I'm sure you'll live a long time, but my job is to speak in facts. Statistically, probably not as long as Bridget. She's younger than you, she's healthier than you, and women tend to outlive men. How long was her parents alive? How long were his parents alive? Did he have any brothers or siblings who have passed away? We can ask about this stuff and really get an idea. So if you're going to lose $24,000, $25,000 a year, later on in life, when inflation is eating away at our purchasing power, and you have nothing to insulate against long-term care, you might eat up a lot. You might have to mortgage the house to take care of Peter. What's that going to look like, and how can you prevent against it? So what I have here is the ability to offer a product, something called an IUL, Index Universal Life, which actually could help cover you in both ways. Now, I think something that's important is that you understand a bit about retirement, what's coming up, certain things like RMDs, Social Security, MedSup, those sorts of things can be very helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and give you this trifold, and what I'd like to do is you all take a quick read on that. I'm going to come back Tuesday, and I'm going to explain a little bit more about preparing for retirement and also how we can take care of this potential income gap, as well as the long-term care issue. Because the reality is this: if you go apply for long-term care coverage, true long-term care coverage right now, you might not be approved and it can be very expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
We've looked at it before, and
Yeah,
it's too much.
oftentimes my clients have. I'd say less than 2% of my clients have long-term
Yeah.
care coverage for those exact
Didn't
reasons.
take it out soon enough.
Yeah, exactly. So at this point, we're going to take our scenario and we're going to go to fflams.com or the CRM, it still resides there, and go to Ask a Specialist, check IUL, and submit the scenario. And then we'll meet you back here once we have our scenario. I am going to have my scenario and submit it to Ask a Specialist. So what I want to do is go to fflams.com. That's fflams.com. If you haven't registered, you can do so with your Athene or Americo agent ID and the last 4 digits of the phone number. There is a getting started guide, real handy and helpful. But in this case, I have registered. I'm going to go ahead and log in. So now we're going to go up here to Ask a Specialist. This is also available on a mobile version. I can go to either submitting an annuity, IUL, or an app for review. So if I've written an annuity or an IUL app and I want to have it reviewed for suitability, I highly recommend that. You can do that here. I can also download the PDF and use this in home and then submit. So it says you'll be back, you'll hear it back within 48 hours. It's normally as quick as 24 hours. So that's how we submit to Ask a Specialist.
Hey Sean, thanks for your submission. As I can see, the scenario, Bridget will probably outlive Peter, and potentially by about 10 years. If we want to overcome the $25,000 a year, I'd recommend a $250,000 death benefit. I also recommend the Lifetime Foundation Elite from Global Atlantic. Rather than solving for the minimum death benefit and maximum cash accumulation, we want to do the opposite. We want to find the most affordable death benefit that's going to pay tax-free. You can see the return on premium invested is almost double, even if the client lives to age 88, which is not very likely based on the health conditions. All right, so this policy also has living benefits. So if this client is terminally ill or is confined, then they can borrow against the death benefit, so it protects them in lieu of having a true long-term care policy. Remember, if the premium is a little too high, we can reduce the death benefit down to $200,000 or $150,000. But based on what you told me, this seems like a really good solution. By the way, the target premium was over $10,000, so you get paid handsomely for helping these clients.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Sean Ruggiero, Bridget Reimer. We left with asking a specialist. We have a client, Bridget and Peter. Peter is 68, Bridget is 64. Peter isn't in the greatest health. Bridget is very healthy, and so we need to solve that income gap and also address the lack of long-term care coverage. So, Peter, Bridget, thanks for having me back. Hopefully you had a chance to take a look at the trifle I sent you. If you have any questions, let's go over that. But first, I wanted to explain to you a little bit more about that IUL, the Index Universal Life, one of the most popular tools out there for retirees and pre-retirees because of the same reasons of what you're facing. As long as Peter's alive, you're in pretty good shape. When Peter passes, assuming that it'll be before you, and statistically that's highly likely, things can get a bit rough. And that is compounded, that is exacerbated with the cost and the trouble of long-term care. Now, statistically speaking, 70% of people need long-term care in some form or another. Statistically speaking, half of that is provided by friends and family. Okay, so put a pin in that, because I know you said you have the 3 children, ages 40, 36, 34. You know, I know with me and my kids, I definitely don't want to be a burden, which is why you've worked so hard, Peter. It's why you're working to age 70, and you stayed with the kids during that period of time to help raise them. Your kids are obviously important to you. The last thing we want to do is leave this earth with a bad taste in their mouth that, you know, hey, we became a burden in the last years of our life. So good news is there are ways that we can help this out, and this specifically is one of them. So in this Index Universal Life Plan, I have this on Peter. Now, I just did a standard, so non-tobacco standard. Could you get a higher rating, health rating? Possibly. Could you get lower? Maybe, but this is just kind of an average, okay? This is something that they are going to come and do blood and urine and weigh you and those sorts of things. Don't let that intimidate you. I've done a lot of this. based on what we see here, you should fall in these numbers. And there's no reason to be intimidated by that. And it assures you that you're getting the best bang for your buck. Now, age 68, okay, this has a face value, a guaranteed face value of $250,000 level, okay? Now, it has a monthly premium of $683. I understand. Based on what we have here, that might seem like a lot. Heck, that's over half of your current Social Security. But I'm going to show you why this makes a lot of sense and why we have to look at this as an option to take care of the things later on when we won't have any options, okay? So what this does here is as follows. It gives you a $250,000 guaranteed death benefit, and it also accumulates some cash, okay? It's based on an average return of 6%. Now, I want you to see something here. See this guaranteed column where it has cash value of all zeros? This is an index product. An index product is when the market goes up, it indexes up. When the market goes down, it loses nothing, okay? In order for this middle column, this guarantee to take place, the stock market, the S&P 500, would have to go down every month for every year for the rest of your life. So 2-3 decades.
Yeah.
It's on here because by law, you have to show what the guarantee is. And you'll notice that that $250,000 death benefit still continues on for quite a long period of time. But the reality is this. I don't want to waste your time or mine. So yes, that's the guarantee. But the reality is that it's going to do something over in this column based on the average returns over history. So if we look at that, will it be these exact returns? No. You might see this cash value fluctuate a little bit. But you can see here that paying this $683 a month, you're given a $250,000 tax-free death benefit. You're also accumulating cash. So you can see here in this middle column, this cash value grows and hovers around $20,000, which could be used at any point in time for anything that you need. Maybe you want to take a vacation. I wouldn't advise it. Maybe you need to buy a car, emergency spending.
Yeah.
You do have access to the cash. But that's not the reason you're setting this up. The reason that you're setting this up is for this number here, this $250,000 of tax-free benefit. And this is going to do one of two things or both. Okay, let's say, Peter, you live to age, and I'm just going to pick an age out here. Let's say you live to age, 88. You have to admit, that's a pretty good ripe age for someone of Peter's health status who is 68 years old currently. So you're going to pay into this a grand total of $163,000. And that is a lot of money over time. But that $163,000 is going to be worth $250,000. So that 163 has an ROI on it, return on investment, and is now worth $250,000 tax-free. So if you don't need long-term care and die and live all the way to, and I'm just picking this number out because it calculates it for me, 88, you now have two things happening. One, you lose the lower of the two Social Securities, so you lose the $1,000, and you lose half the pension, so you lose another $1,000. That's $2,000 a month or $24,000, $25,000 a year.
Yeah.
So now, if you outlive Peter, and I'm projecting as much as 10 years, you have that money made up.
Yeah.
You now have $250,000 tax-free that comes to you and offsets the loss. You've solved the income gap just by setting aside some money while both of you are alive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just kind of like a savings.
It is. It's a savings with a nice ROI, and it pays out tax-free.
Yep.
Now, here's a cool thing about it. Unlike a savings, where if you save for 6 years, or let's say you save for 10 years, and you put $81,000 into the account,
Still worth.
it's going to be worth $81,000,
Yeah.
maybe a little higher with interest yield. But this is worth $250,000.
Yeah.
So Peter, if you aren't on this earth quite as long as another 2 full decades, it's still going to pay out $250,000. And in fact, your return on investment, not that we want Peter to die anytime early, your return on investment is even higher. Now let's look at another scenario or a combination of scenarios, long-term care. Okay, you don't have long-term care. It's really not feasible right now to go and get, probably not affordable, and probably a situation where you might not be approved. So with the long-term care scenario, knowing that 70% of people need long-term care, you don't want to be a burden on you late in life, you don't want to be a burden on the kids, how are you going to take care of that? Well, here's a cool thing about this product. If you are critically ill, if you are terminally ill, you can access the death benefit, not even the cash. You can access the $250,000 ahead of time. So if he needs $50,000 every year for 2 years to offset long-term care, you can access it. You don't even have to have the cash value built up. You can access it off of the tax-free death benefit. And the cool thing is this, unlike traditional long-term care policies where you have to go to a facility and then get reimbursed, right? Where are you going to find that money? How's it going to look? Maybe you are having to bother with the kids. Maybe you are having to sell the house and hoping you can repay it. You can do this with a doctor's note, essentially, okay? Documenting the critical illness or the terminal illness, and they will send you a check. So you could provide long-term care. You could have someone come to the home, maybe a registered nurse or someone or a care provider come and help out. You have all the flexibility in the world. And anything that you don't use, let's say you use $100,000 of it. You're not having to sell the house. You're not having to bother the kids. You use $100,000 of it, and then he dies. The remaining $150,000 still passes to you.
As long as we just keep up with those payments, right?
As long as you keep up with the payments,
okay.
yeah. But it's a nice predictable amount, and it's something that fits in the budget.
Yeah.
And then that's where I would go with it. So $683, that is a $10,000+ target premium. That's what you're paid off of. Okay, so that's a very healthy premium. Maybe they can afford that. Maybe they can afford $500 a month. But we have to talk about the value of it, and we have to discover it using the financial inventory, asking the long-term care question, and then do you have anything that acts like insurance? In this case, they did not have long-term care, which is going to be very normal, and they did not have a 401k, which is also very normal. Okay? Are we disrupting our mortgage protection sale or our final expense sale? Absolutely not. This is an add-on to address things that we didn't even talk about in that. We're talking about income gaps, we're talking about long-term care and how to protect against those. So hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, please email us at annuity@familyfirstlife.com, and we'll be able to help you out. If you have any scenarios that you want to run through, or if you need a copy of this financial inventory, let us know. Thank you.